Morning students, this is 11th class biology chapter 6 anatomy of flowering plants and this is our lecture number 5. Topics to be discussed in today's lecture are anatomy of dicot leaf, anatomy of monocot leaf and secondary growth in dicot stem, in which you will study about activity of cambium ring. This is only a part of secondary growth in dicot stem. We will continue with the same topic in the next lecture. So let's start with anatomy of dicot leaf. So dicot leaf can also be called dorsiventral leaf because it has two different surfaces, dorsal surface and ventral surface. These two surfaces are different in terms of number of stomata. Different number of stomata are found on dorsal and ventral surface of dicot leaf. The vertical section of a dicot leaf through lamina shows three main parts. So when a vertical section is cut through the dicot leaf, these three main parts appear when it is seen under the microscope: epidermis, mesophyll and vascular system. So let's see about these parts. First of all, epidermis, part of dicot leaf. It covers both the upper surface, that is called adaxial epidermis, and the lower surface, that is called abaxial epidermis of the leaf. As you can see here in the picture, this is adaxial surface, means upper surface of the leaf, and this is abaxial surface, which is called lower surface of the leaf. So epidermis is present on both surfaces, on adaxial as well as abaxial surface. It has a conspicuous cuticle. So cuticle layer is present above the epidermis. Abaxial epidermis generally bears more stomata. So as I have told you that it is dorsal and ventral surface of the dicot leaf are different in terms of number of stomata, right? So abaxial epidermis, this lower surface of dicot leaf, has more stomata than its upper surface, means adaxial surface, adaxial epidermis, right? In adaxial epidermis, stomata are fewer or absent. As you can see here, on the upper surface of the leaf or the adaxial epidermis, there will be less number of stomata. So no stomata is shown here, okay, and one stomata is shown here. So more number of stomata are present here in the lower surface of the leaf. So this is about the epidermis. Then next part in the vertical section of the leaf is mesophyll, and mesophyll is the tissue between the upper and the lower epidermis. So this is upper epidermis and this is lower epidermis, and all this tissue present between upper and lower epidermis is called mesophyll tissue, and it is made up of parenchyma, means all the cells present in the mesophyll tissue are of parenchymatous type. They contain chloroplast for photosynthesis. So these parenchymatous cells present here in the mesophyll have chloroplast for photosynthesis. As you know, a function of leaves is to perform the photosynthesis. Okay, chloroplasts are present in the cells of the leaves. So in which cells of the leaves these chloroplasts are found? These are present in mesophyll cells. These mesophyll cells are of parenchymatous type. Now this mesophyll tissue of leaves is divided into two types. Okay, it is of two types: palisade parenchyma and spongy parenchyma. So this complete mesophyll tissue present here, it is of two types: palisade parenchyma and spongy parenchyma. It is two types of mesophyll. Now what is palisade parenchyma? It is adaxially placed, okay, means it is present near the upper surface. Adaxially means near the adaxial epidermis, so we can say it is present near the upper surface of the leaf. Made up of elongated cells arranged vertically. So you can see here presence of palisade mesophyll or palisade parenchyma. It can be called palisade parenchyma because in mesophyll all these cells are of parenchymatous type. So we can say palisade mesophyll or palisade parenchyma, right? Now these are elongated cells and these are arranged like this vertically and parallel to each other. Okay, so this part of mesophyll is palisade mesophyll. Okay, and these are palisade parenchyma, you can say, having elongated vertically and parallel arranged cells, and it is present, you can see here, it is present near adaxial epidermis. Next type of mesophyll is spongy parenchyma or spongy mesophyll, and the oval or round and loosely arranged cells are present here in spongy mesophyll. As you can see here, these loosely arranged oval or round cells are present here. Okay, and this spongy parenchyma or spongy mesophyll is present below the palisade cells and extend to the lower epidermis. So as you can see here, these are cells of palisade mesophyll, and just below the cells of palisade mesophyll, these cells of spongy mesophyll are present here, and these cells extend up to adaxial epidermis here. Sorry, abaxial epidermis means lower, up to the lower surface of leaf, right? And there are numerous large spaces and air cavities between these cells. So you can see these large air cavities present between these cells. These are air cavities present between the cells of spongy mesophyll. These such air cavities are not present here between the cells of palisade mesophyll. These are present only in the between the cells of spongy mesophyll. Next part that is seen in vertical section of a dicot leaf is vascular system. So vascular system includes vascular bundles, means bundles of xylem and phloem, right? Now these vascular bundles, or you can say xylem and phloem, you know the function of these are the tissues for the transportation of water, minerals, and for the transportation of food, right? So these vascular bundles can be seen in veins and midribs. You know about the midrib of leaf and also about the veins of leaf, right? So these are the parts of leaf where these vascular bundles are found. Okay, so veins and midrib of the leaf are associated with the transportation of different substances like water, minerals, and the food. Okay, because these vascular bundles are found in veins and midrib of leaf. Size of vascular bundles is dependent on the size of veins, right? The veins vary in thickness in the reticulate venation of dicot leaves. You know about the dicot leaf venation, because about the venation you have studied in chapter 5, morphology of flowering plant. So reticulate type of venation is found in dicot leaves, right? And in reticulate venation, veins vary in thickness, means various thickness is found for the veins, right? Vascular bundles are surrounded by a layer of thick walled bundle sheath cells. So vascular bundles, the bundles of xylem and phloem, are surrounded by a layer of cells, thick layer of cells, which are called bundle sheath cells. Okay, and that layer formed by these cells is called bundle sheath. So bundle sheath is found here around the vascular bundles. As you can see here, this is a vascular bundle. Okay, and this layer present here is of vascular bundle sheath. Okay, so this is vascular bundle sheath, layer of cells surrounding the vascular bundle. So this is a complete vascular bundle present here, having this blue colored part, this are phloem, and these are xylem present here. So this is midrib part of leaf. Okay, this part of leaf is midrib part, right? So only one vascular bundle is shown here in the midrib. Many such vascular bundles will be found in the veins. Okay, and number of these vascular bundles vary with the thickness of veins. So these are all the parts of leaf which are seen in vertical section of a dicot leaf. Then next is about the anatomy of isobilateral leaf or monocot leaf. Now monocotyledonous or monocot leaf is called isobilateral leaf because the two surfaces of monocote leaf are similar to each other. Okay, they are similar to each other in terms of number of stomata. So same number of stomata are found on both surfaces of a monocotyledonous leaf. That's why it is also called isobilateral leaf. Iso means similar, and on both sides, because it is similar, that's why isobilateral leaf. The anatomy of monocote leaf is like that of dicote leaf in many ways. So it shows following differences. So here we will talk about only the differences, that how it is different from the anatomy of dicote leaf. The same three parts will be found here also in the monocote leaf anatomy, like epidermis, mesophyll and vascular system. Okay, same three parts will be present here also. So we are discussing only about the differences. First difference is about the stomata. It is isobilateral leaf and the dicote leaf was dorsiventral leaf. So different number of stomata were present on the both surfaces of the leaf, but here the number of stomata are same, right? So this is the first difference, that stomata are present on both surfaces of the epidermis. Okay, and the number of stomata are same on both surfaces or on both side of the epidermis, right? So adaxial epidermis and abaxial epidermis have same number of stomata. Those stomata is not shown here, but same number of stomata are found on both sides, right? Same name, adaxial and abaxial epidermis is given here also, like it was in dicote leaf, right? Second difference, mesophyll is not differentiated into palisade and spongy parenchyma. As you can see here, this complete part is mesophyll. Okay, and you can see all these oval shaped cells here. Okay, so this mesophyll is not divided into or it is not differentiated into palisade and spongy type of mesophyll. All the cells of mesophyll are of same type, right? So we can say this is the second difference, then that mesophyll is not differentiated. Next is in grasses. Certain adaxial epidermal cells along the veins modify into large empty colorless cells. Okay, what is happening here? Adaxial epidermal cells means the on the upper side of the leaf. Okay, so some of the adaxial epidermal cells which are present along the veins, these get modified. Modified means these become large, empty and colorless, and these cells are called bulliform cells. Okay, when they have absorbed water and are turgid, the leaf surface is exposed. So these bulliform cells, these are large and empty cells. That's why these cells will absorb water. Okay, and when these cells will absorb water, these cells will become turgid. Okay, means these cells will get swollen. These will become turgid by absorption of water. So we can say these get swollen. The leaf surface is exposed. So due to which, due to turgidity of these bulliform cells, leaf surface will be exposed. When they are flaccid, due to water stress, means these bulliform cells, when there is any water stress, means scarcity of water, then what will happen? These are not absorbing any extra water. That's why these cells will become flaccid. Okay, means these are not turgid at that time. These are not absorbing water. So these will become flaccid due to water stress and make the leaves curl inwards to minimize water loss. So when the bulliform cells are in flaccid stage, what will happen? Leaves will curl inwards and water loss will be minimized. So what is the function of bulliform cell here? When there is a scarcity of water, they help to minimize the loss of water, right? And when there is lot of water, then they leaf surface become exposed due to turgidity of this bulliform cell, and these are helping in more transpiration, more loss of water, right? So this is the function of bulliform cells which are found in grasses. Next is parallel venation. So this is another difference in the anatomy of dicote and monocote leaf. So parallel venation is reflected in the near similar size of vascular bundles. Right, because in parallel venation thickness of veins is same, so there is no variation in the thickness of veins, so due to which vascular bundle size is also similar. Okay, thickness of all the veins is similar, and that's why size of vascular bundles is also similar, except in main veins. Main veins means midrib. So in midrib there will be large sized vascular bundles, but in the remaining veins the size of vascular bundles will be similar. This is another difference. Here you can see the diagram of a monocot leaf, anatomy of monocot leaf, and this is upper epidermis, that is called adaxial epidermis. This is lower epidermis, that is called abaxial epidermis. These are stomata present here in upper as well as in lower as well as upper epidermis. Okay, and all this tissue present here is mesophyll tissue, and these are bulliform cells. As you can see, these large swollen cells present here, these are bulliform cells. So what are these bulliform cells? These are modification of epidermis, right? And these are vascular bundles. So this part is midrib part, and you can see this large vascular bundle present here. Okay, and all these are vascular bundles present in other veins. So same size vascular bundles will be present in the veins here. Next topic that we are going to start is secondary growth. So secondary growth occur only in dicot plants, right? So let's start with the secondary growth in dicot stem. So the growth of roots and stem in length with the help of apical meristem is called primary growth, right? So first you need to know about the primary growth. What is it? With the help of apical meristem of root and stem, the growth that takes place in the earlier life stages of the plant is called primary growth. And secondary growth is the increase in girth of dicot plant. Okay, first what happened when a seedling is grown, then what happened? First of all, it increase in its height, right? It increase its height due to presence of meristematic cell in its root and shoot part, right? So that increase in height is a part of primary growth, and later on same plant starts secondary growth. It starts increasing its girth, it starts secondary growth. So that increase in girth of a plant is called secondary growth. So tissues involved in secondary growth are two lateral meristems, right? Tissues involved in primary growth are apical meristems, and tissues responsible for secondary growth are lateral meristems. So name of these two lateral meristems which are responsible for the secondary growth of plant are vascular cambium and cork cambium. So let's see about the vascular cambium first. It is the meristematic layer responsible for cutting of vascular tissues. Meristematic layer, so it is because it's a type of lateral meristem, right? So it is lateral meristematic layer, you can say, which is responsible for cutting of vascular tissues, xylem and phloem. We have talked about secondary xylem and secondary phloem, right? So this secondary xylem and secondary phloem will be made by this vascular cambium now. So we can say this is the meristematic layer which is responsible for the formation of secondary xylem and secondary phloem layers, right, which are part of secondary growth of plant. In the young stem, it is present in patches as a single layer between xylem and phloem, right? At the earlier life stages of the plant, you can say when the stem is young, okay, at that time this vascular cambium is not a complete ring. It is present in the form of patches. So wherever there will be as a vascular bundle, it will be present between the xylem and phloem. Later it forms a complete ring, right? So later on this vascular cambium makes a complete ring for the secondary growth of plant. Let's see here how it happened. You see here, this is a transverse section of a dicot stem. Okay, this outermost layer is epidermis. Then after epidermis, next layer will be of cortex. Okay, and these are all vascular bundles in dicot stem, right? These are vascular bundles. Now this upper part, this is phloem, and this part is xylem. And this green line between this xylem and phloem, as you can see here, this is cambium ring. Okay, this is cambium, or you can say vascular cambium. So vascular cambium is present between xylem and phloem here. Okay, and it is present only between these xylem and phloem in this vascular bundle, as you can see here. Okay, in young stem, but later on this cambium makes a complete ring like this portion. This is the portion present between these vascular bundles. So this cambium ring will be formed here also. So it will form a complete ring like this in later stages. As you can see here, this is complete ring of vascular cambium. So you can say cambium ring. This is called cambium ring. Now it is start for the secondary growth of the plant, right? So these are all parts. As you can see, this centermost part is pith, right? So you need to make this diagram. Here you need to label all the parts like epidermis, after that cortex, then these vascular bundles having primary phloem and primary xylem. Okay, and between primary phloem and primary xylem there is complete vascular cambium ring, and in the center there is pith. Now how this cambium ring is formed here, how this complete cambium ring is formed here. In dicot stems, cells of cambium ring present between primary xylem and primary phloem is intrafascicular cambium. Okay, cambium ring which is present between primary xylem and primary phloem, it is called intrafascicular cambium. Cells of medullary rays. Now you know the position of medullary cells, where the medullary cells are present. These are present between the vascular bundles, okay, along the radial wall. So adjoining this intrafascicular cambium become meristematic and form interfascicular cambium. So in starting, when it was present in the form of patches only between the xylem and phloem, it was called intrafascicular cambium, and when it becomes complete, when it becomes a ring like structure, then it is called interfascicular cambium, because at this time it is present between the vascular bundles also. So it is called interfascicular cambium. So intrafascicular cambium converts into interfascicular cambium for the secondary growth. And how this interfascicular cambium is formed? With the help of medullary cells. Thus, a continuous ring of cambium is formed. So this continuous ring of cambium is called interfascicular cambium. Now let's see how this interfascicular cambium now works. How it works for secondary growth. So activity of cambium ring is our next topic. So the cambium ring becomes active and cut off new cells both towards the inner and outer sides. Okay, this is the actual function of the cambium ring for which it has been formed. So it starts forming different layers on its inner side as well as on its outer side. The cells cut off towards pith, means towards the center, mature into secondary xylem, right? The cambium ring is forming the layers on its inner side as well as on its outer side. So the cells which are forming on the inner side, means towards the pith side, are forming secondary xylem, and the cells cut off towards periphery mature into secondary phloem, right? So secondary xylem and secondary phloem are formed due to activity of cambium ring. Now cambium is more active on the inner side than on the outer side. As a result, more secondary xylem is produced than secondary phloem and soon forms a compact mass. So more amount of secondary xylem will be formed because on the inner side this cambium ring is more active. It is forming more cells towards the central side, towards the inner side, you can say. So here you can see the diagram. This outermost part, this is epidermis, okay, and this is the central part. This area is pith, and here this part is cambium ring, which you have seen in the previous diagram. Okay, this is cambium ring, and now this is active cambium ring. It is cutting off layers on its both side. So on outer side also and on inner side also, it is cutting off different layers. So here this part on the inner side of the cambium ring, these complete cells, these are forming secondary xylem. Okay, this part is primary xylem, and here this is secondary xylem. And on the outer side of this cambium ring, this part, this is phloem. Okay, so on the tips, this part is secondary phloem. As you can see here, this is secondary phloem. So secondary phloem and secondary xylem has been formed like this due to activity of cambium ring. Right, you need to make this diagram also. Here you will show this cambium ring first, and on the inner side of the cambium ring there will be secondary xylem. On the inner side of secondary xylem there will be this primary xylem. Okay, these patches you can see here, these are parts of primary xylem. Okay, primary xylem, then secondary xylem, then this cambium ring, and then this is secondary phloem, and then cortex and epidermis. All these parts are present here in this diagram. So these are medullary rays. As you can see here, medullary rays, these are the cells, you can say, which are present between the bundles, vascular bundles. So these are medullary rays which are shown here. Now activity of cambium ring is continued. Primary and secondary phloems get gradually crushed due to continued formation and accumulation of secondary xylem. As I have told you that cambium ring is more active on the inner side, so more amount of secondary xylem is formed than the amount of secondary phloem, right? So what happened with the time, primary and secondary phloems get gradually crushed because more amount of secondary xylem has been formed. So accumulation of secondary xylem occurs and phloem part will get crushed. However, primary xylem remains intact in or around the center. So here you can see same diagram. This is primary xylem part which remains intact, and this complete part is secondary xylem. Okay, and the secondary xylem is increasing in its amount. That's why this phloem part, this complete red color part you can see here, this is primary phloem, and on the tips this is secondary phloem, right? So this you can say this red color part, this is primary and secondary phloem. So it get crushed when this secondary phloem increase in amount like this. So it increases in amount and this phloem will shift towards the periphery and will get crushed with the time, right? At some places, cambium ring forms a narrow band of parenchyma which passes through the secondary xylem and the secondary phloem in the radial directions. These are secondary medullary rays. So medullary rays you can see here, these are secondary medullary rays. What are these? So cambium forms a narrow band of parenchyma, means of parenchyma cells. So these are narrow band of parenchyma cells, and this narrow band of parenchyma cells, as you can see here, it is passing through the secondary phloem and secondary xylem, right? As you can see here this is secondary phloem and this is secondary xylem. So it is passing through the secondary xylem and secondary phloem, and all these rings are called secondary medullary rays, and these are made up of parenchyma cells. Now based on today's topics, your homework is NCERT question number 10 and 12. So we have done some part of secondary growth. in next lecture we will start with the next part of secondary growth. Okay, means next is the activity of co-cambium. Now let's discuss the homework solution of previous lecture. This is question number 5 of NCERT. A transfer section of young stem of a plant from your school garden and observe it under the microscope. How would you ascertain whether it is monocot stem or a dicot stem? So, and give reason for the same. So the answer is the following characteristic can be used to distinguish if it is a monocot or a dicot stem. So if you have a transverse section of a young stem, then you will observe it under the microscope, and on the basis of obvious differences which are found in monocot and dicot stem, you can tell that it is monocot stem or dicot stem. So let's see what are those differences. First is vascular bundles are arranged in a ring in case of dicot stem, but in case of monocot stem, vascular bundles are scattered. Right? You have done the anatomy of dicot and monocot stem, so you know about it that vascular bundles are scattered in monocot stem and these are arranged in the form of a ring in case of dicot stem. Next is vascular bundles are of open type in case of dicot stem, and in case of monocot stem, these vascular bundles are of closed type with a bundle sheath. Next is presence of collateral, conjoint and open vascular bundles with a strip of cambium between xylem and phloem is seen in case of dicot stem, but in case of monocot stem, presence of collateral, conjoint and closed vascular bundles dispersed in the ground tissue that contains the parenchyma. Means these are scattered in the ground tissue, you can say. So these are dispersed in the ground tissue and contain parenchyma. Ground tissue can be differentiated into parenchyma, collenchyma and endodermis in case of dicot stem, right? But here in case of monocot stem, phloem parenchyma is absent, water containing cavities are present which are not found in case of dicot stem. One more thing, medullary rays are found between the vascular bundles. So medullary rays are found only here in the dicot stem. These are not found in monocot stem between the vascular bundles, and secondary medullary rays which are formed only during the secondary growth are found in dicot stem only. These are not found in monocot stem. Next is NCERT question number 6. The transverse section of a plant material shows the following anatomical features. The vascular bundles are conjoint, scattered and surrounded by a sclerenchymatous bundle sheath. So you have done it in the previous question also, right? The same features, these are found in monocot stem. Okay, in monocot stem only conjoint and scattered vascular bundles which are scattered in ground tissue, you can say, and also surrounded by bundle sheath. Like, so these are features of monocot stem. Next feature, let's say B is phloem parenchyma is absent. So phloem parenchyma is also absent in monocot stem. Okay, so what will you identify it as? So obviously it is monocot stem. So transverse section is of monocot stem.